Good evening, gentlemen, and the lady will be here soon. Okay, this one is the fourth step workshop, and today is the fourth week of the month. So today we make a kind of recap of what we discussed the previous 3 weeks. How do we start today? Actually, just out of fun, I asked if a young person to define the concept of intelligence, to define the word intelligence, happiness, and then to define what would be the most important goal for her. And I'm waiting for the results because I think that it is interesting for me actually to see how a young person can put the three things together, because for me are just the essence of this program. Intelligence, I believe, is the ability of any individual of being able to put all the resources available toward reaching the goal, the important goal for them. Happiness is something that I cannot define, but that I can recognize when I am in there. And the final goal, something that had been actually somehow challenged when I mentioned that last week or a couple of weeks ago. I believe that the final goal for everybody is to experience life with joy and peace. Anybody has a different idea?
No, that about sums it up.
I just was reading something that said objectivity is the essence of happiness. No, objectivity is the essence of intelligence. Being objective, in other words, if you start thinking, you're not mind is somewhere else, which is a subjective kind of thing, you're not going to get into any intelligence. But anyway, it really struck me as a quite interesting quote. That at least it leads to being intelligent, to be objective, but it's just a
the part that for me it becomes. I think that I mention intelligence because it's part of I believe is one of the most important issues that the ego usually put forward. Mm-hmm. Am I intelligent? Or other people are more intelligent than I am. So the ego uses intelligence as a tool to actually keep us hooked to this kind of sense of reality of the world as you want it to show us, and then keep enhancing that through the kind of different sense of inferiority or sense of superiority. Mm-hmm. So the comparison, the judgment. So when the ego keeping us in the space of judgment and comparison, it keeps us just in bondage, basically slave. And that what, in a way, is the tool that the ego uses to keep being in control of our lives. Somehow, actually, it turned out to be exactly what we are talking tonight. And it makes sense because I mentioned during the previous 3 weeks, that one of the biggest, basically I mentioned that in the big book it says very clearly that be convinced that what defeated you is the self, the ego. And how it defeated us, the ego defeated us through a certain form of behavior that basically kept repeating, made us repeat consistently, and we identify with it. Our identification with the ego is the source at the root of our problems. And it says in the big book, let's examine the most common manifestation. I don't know if you remember the quote. Being convinced that the self is what defeated you, the examine is the most common manifestations. And then it starts, resentment is the first offender, and then it goes to fears, and then it goes to basic relationship, that is the sex behavior and harms done to others. So that is the basis of where the fourth step is coming from. You have the first three steps, the spiritual or theoretical steps, powerlessness, manageability. We came to believe that there is a higher power, and once you accept this fact, we surrender our will and our life. That means surrender our ego. And putting in more in understandable terms for me, at least, is just the ego used to manage my life. At a certain point, I look back at my life and say, oops, my goal at the end was to be happy. That's all I wanted in life. And the ego promised me, do this, do this, do this. And I kept doing what my ego was telling me to do. And the results were misery, 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 misery. So something was wrong with the way my head, representing the ego, was trying to manipulate and control my life, because it never brought me to the final result. Now, a young person can say, oh, well, I have so many years, I will learn. I have no more that delusion. I follow my head and my ego for so long, and the only thing that I got to is the feeling that I had when I came to this room. That it was the total, utter demoralization. Yes.
So where does self-will come in versus God's will? Is self-will and ego one and the same?
Yes. Self-will is exactly that.
Okay.
The ego, basically, when we identify with the ego, okay, we act in self-will.
Okay.
So basically, the ego, the self are the same. So the ego tells us, I follow my plan. You want to be happy, follow my plan. And the plans can be, for anyone different, Try to buy a Ferrari, try to buy a double house, find this beautiful partner that you want and all the things, and you will be happy. And you start to go toward the goals, and then maybe you reach those goals, and then you realize, oops, that happiness didn't come through. So what's wrong? Well, let's change something over here. So the ego gives us another plan, So the self is what actually convinces us that we have to follow it. And that is the bondage of self that we have in the third step prayer, relieve me of the bondage of self, because the self is the one that actually keeps me in bondage. The self is the source, the root of my disease as an alcoholic. That at least is very clearly said in the big book. The drinking is just a symptom of something that is much deeper, of a spiritual malady. And only a spiritual change within ourselves can relieve us of the obsession of drinking. Okay, yes.
How does the just living in the physical world attaining this, getting this, just seeing things from a physical aspect without any, let's say, spirituality, where you don't believe in something that you can't see. So maybe that is part of that.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand exactly what you meant.
Well, I think of myself as a physical person,
yes.
Let's say, and everything out there is pretty much, unless you go and believe in a higher power, you could be just separated from that and just live to attain things and material things and whatever whatever your desires are. So that's, to me, of a physical nature, where it maybe is antagonistic toward believing in something other than the physical world. So I don't know how that.
Okay, let me throw out these possibilities. There is nothing wrong in trying to achieve what we call physical success. Mm-hmm. There is nothing wrong in trying to improve our condition in the physical world and to satisfy our instincts, the natural instincts, for protection, for security, emotional security, social security, nothing to do with social security. Forget it. Forget it, social security. Security in social situations.
We're having a hard time with that.
Yeah, okay. But there is nothing wrong in having this kind of, in trying to satisfy those instincts for feeling protected in the physical world, even the sexual instincts. To have a partner, to have eventually kids, to have a family, or to just enjoy sex as sex because it's part of our drive. So all this, there is nothing wrong in doing that. And we can go back to actually what I mentioned before, what is intelligence, if you want. Are all these elements giving us what we actually are seeking as a final goal? Because if my goal is to be happy, and I base everything on the physical world, and suddenly I discover that, oh wow, I had the job that I was looking for, and it doesn't give me the happiness that I wanted. I finally bought the car that I wanted, and the joy didn't come. I am with this beautiful lady, and you know what? She dropped me. I'm miserable. So basically, if those goods, in theoretical terms, if you, in a physical way, find happiness in the physical world outside you, you are okay. There is nothing wrong with it.
Happiness is the key, right?
Yeah. Happiness, I mean, if you find joy, consistent joy, most of your time, then, hey, you found the key. Okay? Unfortunately, it seems that with us, with alcoholics, we did not find that. And we have a problem. We have an obsession with alcohol or with drugs. We have compulsion. Our personality is such that we cannot find the sense of happiness outside unless we use certain substances. And when we go to analyze our disease, we have to trust what the big book says in a way, because that comes from the experience. It doesn't come because theoretically they saw the genes, blah, 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 blah. They say, you know what? We try doctors try in so many ways. Priests try, rabbis, any kind of religious person, everybody try to give a spin to cure this disease, that is alcoholism. And nobody succeeded. From Carl Jung to whatever you want to say, physicians, nobody was able to take care of that. And suddenly, they discovered that if they produce a certain spiritual change within the person, if there is this radical shift within the alcoholic personality, there is a solution. There is a possibility. We can actually get out of that obsession or be relieved of that obsession. The key is change. We have to change something within ourselves. And that what the fourth step is the beginning of this lifetime change that will help us to establish the conditions for a spiritual existence that will help us to be relieved from the obsession with alcohol. Okay, so there is not an antithesis between physical world and what we do. You know, we have to go to work, we have to drive, we have to do all the things, we have to eat, and the spiritual condition we stand. My point is that it's what we do to achieve those elements and the importance that we give to those elements that is a key. And there where the aspect of surrendering comes into play. I can have plans and wanting a lot of things, so I can just keep acting in self-will and screwing up. Because that was my case. There was no two ways. I always tried to keep doing my way, and the results were always negative. Or I can have, as I did, reach a sense of peace inside because I reached a source that was much more powerful than the self. I identify with my higher power. I accepted the existence of an higher power, and I surrendered to this higher power. in surrendering to the higher power, I hooked directly to a source of energy that is much greater than mine. And that is essentially the process. Now, the reason why we are between step 4 and 9 is because it's like, I hooked to this higher power, but then I couldn't see damn thing because I was living in this landfill of garbage and smoke and things that I could not see anything. My connection with the higher power was not there. It was just this little hook that I put, this lifeline that I held on, but there is no real channel of communication between me and the higher power. So the goal with the 4th step is to begin this process of change that will give us a sense of how the ego is keeping us in bondage and keep trying to maintain us in the garbage. So the goal of the 4th step are essentially to get rid of the first obstacles to a spiritual connection, to the channel we're communicating with our higher power. There are the most common one is resentment. This is anger. Okay? The other common and most powerful obstacle is fear. And then come shame and guilt. They are essentially linked to the harm that we have done to other people and to ourselves. But even shame and guilt are fear-based. Okay? So through the 4th step, what we do, we examine what we did right and what we did wrong. And when we say we try to find our character defects, it means we try to identify the areas in our lives in which we are more vulnerable to the attack of the ego, and to detect the tools that the ego uses to keep us screwed up, creating those situations that then become consequences and negative consequences to us that we call character defect. Okay. In my life, I used to live dishonestly. I was very self-centered. I was lying. I was cheating. At times I was greedy because I was a compulsive gambler, so I needed the money. So I had all these character defects that, when in motion in the practical life, would put me in the condition always of having to face consequences that were obviously not very pleasant. When those consequences was not very pleasant, I would get more pissed off. I would start to create more resentment. I would start to go down into the path. So my life has been, if I look backward, like that, I see all these distractions, everything that I build and then destroy, build and destroy, build and destroy. There is all this garbage around, because that has been the creation and the destruction of my character defects, of the behavior that was modeled or was following the impulses of character defects. Now, the character defects, as it says basically in the 12 and 12, are natural instinct gone haywire, gone, I don't remember the words. Right. I don't know, I can never remember this speech. But anyway, you know what I mean. Uh-huh. So that is what it is. And we made the example of greed, okay? The natural instinct in the physical world of possessing things that would give me some sense of financial security, when it is infused by unreasonable fear, make me feel that I will never have enough, so I become greedy. So a natural instinct that is just instinct to protect myself and to have some security around me is used by the ego through fear to become a character defect, greed. So then I will start to act based on that character defect that is going to riot and become greedy and act on that and become lying, cheating, stealing, whatever my greed will bring me to do, because I'm acting under the fear that I will not have enough. Okay? That is essentially the mechanism that we are trying to find out. So the fourth step in examining, in making this inventory of our life, we try to find our assets and our liabilities. We do believe that mostly we have liabilities because, at least as alcoholics, we have this sense of distraction within ourselves, so that most of the things that we see are the negative aspect of ourselves. But in reality, we have certain qualities that are our assets, and that is the goal of the inventory. In a fearless, an objective way, if you want, we can be objective, and deep way, we try to examine our life and our past, and from that, try to find out which one were the elements that actually created this distraction. Why do we do that? Because if we do not modify and get rid of all this encumbrance, all this, how do you say, the treaty, I cannot find the English word, this kind of garbage, that is around us, we cannot create a clean communication with our higher power. So we need to come to terms with the past, and to get rid of those essential things that are preventing us from getting to have this clear channel of communication with our higher power. And that resentment, fear, and then shame and guilt. So that's why we examine these three aspects in the previous three workshops. Resentment is the number one offender, and as I very briefly I divided the resentment into three main groups. The resentments that actually do not exist, or that are almost invented by us on very so flimsy excuses that once you even speak them out, they just disappear, vanish. Getting mad at the guy that crossed the street, that cut me off, it's not really a resentment. It's a kind, obviously, I am pissed off, but that's it. Okay, so it disappears. Once I examine it, I say, okay, man, what did he do to me? How many times I did to other people? It's over. Then we have those that are kind of more serious, where some harm has been done to us, or we perceived that it had been done to us. Because that is doable. It can be that actually it's been done to us, but most of the time actually it's the perception that we had that a harm was done to us. Okay? So we have this resentment toward institutions, ideas, principles, or people. What we do with those, we start to examine what our part was in the events that created that resentment. And once we examine our part, we discovered that most of the time we had a part in it. And once we start to balance off, we realize that actually the reason for being resentful are really, really, really tiny. So we can start to let go of them. Okay? And finally, we have the third group, that are the serious one, the one where the harm was not only perceived, but was actually harm done to us, and it was where we didn't have any kind of anything to do with it. Or our part was so minuscule that basically it was just violence done to us, period, for no reason. What we do with those? With those, we apply intelligence. In which way? We have this very simple connection. If I keep being resentful, sooner or later I go back to drinking. So for me, it's a matter of life and death. So it's not that I have the luxury as an alcoholic to say I can keep this resentment and, out of principles, whatever the reasons are. I need to get rid of it. And the only way that we can get rid of those resentment is through forgiveness. Forgiveness is something that we are not accustomed to have easily. It's a kind of practice. And we just practice forgiveness, and we keep asking God to help us in the process of learning how to forgive other people, particularly the people that harmed us. We can go through the process, as it says in the big book, of just thinking of them as sick people, and so would be mad at people that is sick, when they need help? Probably we wouldn't. But if that doesn't come easy, there is this kind of, I don't know how to say, trick. There is this kind of mysterious way that it works. And it really works. If we write the name of the people of the situation that we have resentment to, and usually it's very short, because our resentment in life, the real resentment, not many. And every day we pray for that people. We really ask, our higher power to give us the strength to forgive these people, and we wish them the best in their life. Sooner or later, in this process, the resentment start to lose its teeth, start to fade away. And it comes the moment that one really feels, they said, you know what? That's it. I forgive this person. I really do feel that I am forgiving this person. I don't want to be angry any longer. And that is a big sense of relief. That is one of those moments of complete liberation when suddenly you realize that actually you start to have a sense of freedom, of the real freedom. The freedom that comes from the purity of your emotions. For the fact that you feel that you're really not hostile to the world, but you are finding the love within yourself. These one are resentment. Practical things about resentments. First of all the inventory is done in writing. We have the 4 columns. The most important suggestion that I give is when you write down the reasons for the resentments, try to break it down in small parts, okay? And we can make any example. I am mad at my wife. Why? Because she divorced me. Or she's a jerk. Or she's unfaithful, whatever. Let's try to break it down. I'm mad at my ex-wife because she took my car, because she took my house, because she left me for another man. So we break down in parts, so we examine all the complexity of the emotions that actually comes from our heart, because it's so easy to make a bundle of a lot of different emotions and make a species on its own and feel that the rage for reasons that actually once you face them individually, they have a different effect. Okay? Because some of the aspects can affect my social instincts, my pride. I look like an idiot in front of my friends. Some it looks like financial fear. Now I don't know if I can survive. Some can look really just love. Some can have to do with the sense of loneliness. So if we examine the different aspects of the resentment, then we can face the little parts, and it's much, much easier to see the mechanism and to let go of it. So that is my suggestion. Both with fears and with resentment, break it down. It's the more simple elements you have, the easier it is to examine them. Not only that, but the easiest way to get specific character defects involved with it. Because when I start to examine, the part that has to do with the financial issue, my wife, bring me to the clinic, my ex-wife, So it's a matter of, I can start to see that I was greedy, that I was dishonest, that I have other fears, in other terms. If it comes to the emotional aspect, I can start to feel that I was needy, that I was overpowering, that I was bossy. So I can see different aspects of my character defects. Is that clear, the process? Mm-hmm. You remember how we do with the column, right? We have we write the first column. You have these things, no? This one is resentments, but they're all the...
I don't have the resentments. I think I got...
fears.
last week I was the first time I came.
Oh.
I'm not sure.
But I will give you all the other one. But anyway, this one is a thought column that is mostly the same, right? So if I am resentful at person or idea or institution, and then number one, okay, my wife. Why? Because she left me. Two, because she took my car. Because she gossiped with my friends. Because she left with my boss. Because all different items, even one voice, but all the reason you break them down. And then you examine that events, which part of my life affected, and he sees, it was a social, the security in the social aspect of my life, it was the emotional security, it was my ego, it was my pride, so that you start to see then that some of those pattern area in my life, in your life, start to be consistently marked. So you know that is a very vulnerable aspect of your personality. You're always concerned about financial issues because you always my financial is always affected. Okay? Then you see which part did I have. And then you can put the character defect, like this one, okay? So that basically you say, okay, in these events I was, and you start to mark the different character defects. And suddenly you discover that some of them, actually, there is no one single space, Every single resentment has to do with that specific character defect. So you know that, that is something I have to be very careful in my daily life, when it pops up, to try to keep asking God, please help me to remove this character defect. Is that clear, this kind of mechanism? Mm-hmm. Okay. So that is going with the resentment. Fear. Fear is, in my opinion, actually is the fulcrum, is the center of all the problem that we have, because is the most powerful tool that the ego can use to keep us in bondage. Because, as we said before, character defects are essentially natural instincts that go haywire when we riot. Okay? But how and why? In the big book says clearly, under the pressure of unreasonable fear. So fear is what actually is being used by the ego to into the instincts, and the instincts in our personality, alcoholic personality, start to become abnormal and become a character defect. Is that clear?
Kind of.
What's...
I don't know, I can't pin it. Okay.
Okay.
Because I got confused doing this a little bit.
In terms of fear?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's say, again, we can go back to the normal, to the example we did before, okay? My natural instinct is to try to have a job that gives me enough money so that I can buy a car, I can have a house that is not leaking or stuff like that, okay? Suddenly the ego tells me, you know what, your job is not enough, and this house is not strong enough, and what you have is not really what you can protect you in 10 years from now. You need to have more. So the fear, the ego tells you, be afraid of the future, be afraid of your financial situation, be really scared, so you better do something now. Okay? So in place of working one job, you start to work two jobs and try to be really attached with money, so that you start to cheat a little bit on the expense account. You start to become greedy. You start to lie to other people so that you can do it better if you have your own business. You start to say, "Oh, that is excellent quality," when you know that it's not. Okay, so you start to cheat because fear tells you the money that you would make honestly would not be enough. Okay, that's how the ego uses fear to make a natural instinct, a natural way of being, into a character defect. Or you will never have the partner that you really wanted. No way, you are too dumb, you are too ugly, you are too whatever. So the fear that you cannot have the partner will start to have you just starting to desire all the other people around, women or men, whatever it is, your taste and your preference. And they become lust. You start to lust after everybody because I will never have enough sex. Why? Because the ego tells you that you're not good enough, that you're not rich enough, that you're not pretty enough, that you're not handsome enough, whatever are the reasons. So the natural instinct of having sexual encounter with people that you feel comfortable with, if it's infused with fear that you will not have enough, can become character defect.
Oh,
okay?
Okay.
And if you really take, procrastination, decisions are normal part of life, and we make decisions every single instant. Okay? We have to choose between two different things, and so we have to give up something all the time. Because we would like to have both, but we have to choose one of the two. So decisions is that. The fear of making a mistake, or the fear that I can give away something that actually I might need later because I would like to have both, keep us from making the decisions. The fear of being judged, the fear of being, I'll give up the wrong things, so, or look stupid. So the fear infused into a process that actually the normal instinctually is, I make decisions, I act. When that is overcome or just grabbed by fear, become a character defect. That is procrastination, the inability, to make decisions unless we say, yeah. At least that was my way of being, unless I was really in the corner, and I have no other move, I would not make any move. I was there, I was in the corner, push. No, I cannot move this wall, so then I will start to do something, okay? But that is, for me, it's a character defect. But it was based on what? On fear. On fear of making decisions, on fear of being judged, on fear of losing something, on fear of not having enough for me. So can you see what the process is? And actually, if you go through all the character defects, you will realize that, at least so far, all of them that I can see are all fear-based. So there is some natural aspect of life that in quote-unquote normal people, function a certain way. And in us, when the fear attack it, become a character defect. That actually happen even to normal people, but they don't know. What do they know? They're normal. But for us alcoholics, that is very dangerous because for us it brings us then to drink.
Well, is that like not being able to live life on life's terms by? Because I know for myself, I want things to happen now. I'm not willing to wait. Relationships are a great example. So I read more into other people's actions, like, oh, they're interested in me, oh, they're, this, and all of a sudden I'm married with kids and we haven't even went on a date, you know what I mean? I mean, so it's like you're trying to force things to happen instead of just accepting the fact that they're going to happen. And it's because I'm afraid that I'll be alone for the rest of my life.
Fear.
So I'm trying to make things happen.
Perfect.
So I'm not living life on life's terms.
That is perfect example.
Okay.
When the ego basically take a natural instinct, he put fear in it, I will be alone all my life. Why? Because you find the ego will tell you many reasons. Because my earlobe is too long, whatever it is, or because my feet are too long, or I'm losing my hair, whatever is the reason, the ego will tell you something is going to happen, you have to do something about it. And usually something that will defeat you. So the character defects start to come in. And then what the ego function is, to create this illusionary aspect outside, all these illusions, that things will happen, and to attach a meaning to it. You remember there was an example that Paul used to do that I really liked, We are over here, okay? And here we are. I'm, let's say I'm single, okay? And Steve is married. He's not, but let's say he's married. Okay? So he's perfectly happy with his life. He doesn't have any really needs in his agenda for women. Here, Carol come in, and I look at her and say, oh my God, this is cute. So in my mind, I already start to make the story. The story starts to happen, as you said. And in 5 minutes, I'm already married to her. We have kids, we have the beautiful house, we have the things and the things. Steve look at her and say, oh, she's really pretty. That's it. It's a statement, appreciation, it's over. Here the door open, and here comes this gorgeous guy. Okay? Well dressed, really handsome and stuff like that. Now, I look at this guy and say, oh my God, I hope she doesn't see him. Otherwise, I already start in my mind to see divorce, the kids separated, I've lost the house, everything is gone. My agenda has not been satisfied, and this person coming in is a threat. Is a threat to my agenda. Okay? So I start to resent him. Steve look at this guy and say, oh, look at the beautiful suit, probably it's in Armani, Oh, look at the glasses, then Christian Dior or whatever it is, and observe, and this guy to him is another person that is coming in the meeting. Look at him as a nice person. Why? Because he doesn't have an agenda. So the interpretation that he gives to this act is just based on what his agenda and his needs are. Okay? So that's what the ego does. As you can see, there is one single fact. One man enter, open the door, and sit down. It's so simple, right? Then each one starts to give an interpretation to this event. And how the interpretation is created through the needs that the ego tells you that you have, through the agenda that the ego already created with you, for you. Then how resentment comes in, then how fear comes in, then how the screwed up comes in. So as Paul says, at the end of the meeting, I'm so damn resentful about this guy that I go to him and say, hi, my name is Lucio. You know what, next week the meeting will be on the other side of town. That's it. Just to get rid of it. Because he threatened my agenda. So what we have to do, we have to realize that the ego is what created our agenda. Be aware of that. And suddenly start to dismiss this agenda as something that is really not pertaining to us. And start to put God into the one who makes the agenda for us. And then become the aspect of acceptance. In place of trying to manipulate consistently the situation around me in self-will, and most of the time it's self-will that is self-centered, so everything has to come to me, me, we let go of that, and we just say, okay, God's will. God, please show me your will for me. That would happen on step 11. We are still back at step 4. Why? Because before we can actually be able to see what God's will for us is, before being able to really feel the connection and really suck the power of the higher power, the energy from this power that is bigger than us, we have to clean ourselves. House cleaning. That's what we do. So step 4 is the house cleaning. Step 5 is the house cleaning. 6, 7, 8, and 9. Because 4, we come to terms with resentment, we face fears, and we make a list of the people that we harm, and we already decided how to change some of our behavior in the 5th column of the sex inventory.
That's it, changing your behavior.
Changing the
That's
behavior.
the
What
5th
would we
column.
do differently?
That's the 5th column. Okay.
Because the goal in practical terms, once I say, oh yeah, I am lazy, I'm dishonest, I'm right, I'm blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm all of this. No, it doesn't work that way. The goal is, I am all of this. Now, how can I change it? So we know that by ourselves we cannot do it, and then when we go step 6 and 7, the humility humbly ask God to remove our shortcomings. Okay? And of course, the ego is not giving up his job easily. The ego is want to be back in charge, the ego uses the tools that he has. They are fears, resentment, and character defects. So we live our life thinking that we want to live according, free of character defects, but they keep popping up, they keep popping up, they keep popping up. That is a day-by-day change. Once we are aware that there is a character defect, once we are aware that in a certain area of our life we have to be very cautious, we slowly start to learn how to catch the signals that tell us, uh-oh, I'm going to act like a jerk. Uh-oh, I'm going to lie. Uh-oh, I'm going to say something that is not really true. Uh-oh, I'm going to look appear bigger than I am. Uh-oh. So, and what we do once we start to catch, we start to modify the behavior. So if I say something that is a lie, I try immediately to go and say, you know what, actually I think I made a mistake. I'm lying now, I didn't make a mistake. I was trying to really give you the false impression. The truth is, the fact is. We don't have really to tell, you know what, I'm in a program, I'm trying to tell the truth, and blah, 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 blah. You don't have to go bullshit. It's very direct. You go to the person and say, you know what I told you was not correct. That's what it is. Okay? So that is the change, the practical change that we do. So in place of immediately we saw something happen in somebody, we don't like it, and immediately we judge, say, wait a minute, why am I judging the person? We have to start to go back and say, I'm accepting this person. I'm not judging. Okay? So those character defects will keep popping up, and consistently we ask our higher power, please remove this character defect from me. It's a slow change. But what is essential for us is through the fourth step and then the fifth step to actually be aware of what the most glamorous aspect of our life we have to eliminate. Because those aspects, of those character defects, will create, again, circumstances in our life that will give us negative results. And so we just restart again the fear, the resentment, the anger, and then drinking, using, gambling, whatever is the issue. It's clear this circle now.
Well, but what do you mean by the most glamorous parts of our life?
Okay, I know that I am consistently a liar.
Okay, but that's not glamorous.
No, glamorous in the sense the most
Glaring.
glaring.
Okay.
Thank you. Glaring.
Okay.
The most glaring example, okay?
Gotcha.
For me, life was glamorous too, because I always appear that I am really, oh my God, you're kidding me, I am someone.
I got you. Okay.
So that was glamorous for me. I always had to put myself in a light with all the spotlight. It was the show, the drama, whatever it was, It was fun in a certain way, but it was miserable. So anyway, the most glaring defects, okay? The one that really are so consistently coming up, consistently, and they always keep us put ourselves into trouble, okay? Or create those kind of negative results that start the train of circumstances and we feel do not deserve, so we get angry again, resentful again, fearful again, and then we start from that position to make again other decision, and you have going down. It's okay? That clear in this point. So this one is the fog. Then in step 2 we examine the fear, that is the central part, and how do we face or get rid of fear. The only way that we can get rid of fear is through faith. Actually, I like to say that faith and action. Okay? If I surrender my life to the care of this higher power, I have to have faith that this higher power will take care of me. Sorry, will take better care of me than I could of myself. Okay? But this faith is not always come right away. Okay? At times we need to have, let's put it this way, if God is my new manager, I always give him a trial period, You hire a new manager, it's okay, show me that you know how to do your job. So somehow I give him little task, I surrender a few things. And for some reason, usually the answer comes. Little things, and suddenly I start to realize, oh, wow, this manager is working a certain way. And slowly things start to happen, and we can open our eyes and realize that things that we never saw before, or connection we never saw before, now we start to see them because we are open, looking for, because we want to surrender. There is this willingness. And that reinforces our faith. The stronger is the faith, the lesser is the fear. The lesser is the fear, the lesser are the character defects, because they have less power. So the better our life starts to go, the more we surrender, because we have some faith, we surrender more. Faith increase, fear decrease, character defect decrease, increase the faith, because we trust. And that's why I'm saying that faith is something that we can grow into it with the willingness. We start with the willingness, and then slowly, we reach a point that suddenly say, what the hell, I'm just keeping doubting about this higher power. Let me get all the way. And then it comes the surrender. Now the important is, the complete surrender is not just to be surrender every time, but to stay surrendered, to basically being able to be in a state of surrendering. So I automatically feel, that I am protected. So this sense of strength and lack of fears is almost automatic. And that what happens then through prayer and meditation. We improve our conscious contact. So that conscious contact with our higher power through prayer and meditation reinforces our faith. The fact that we get rid of all the problems, and with step 10 we keep ourselves clean, this channel of communication is stronger and stronger and stronger.
So, can you tell us a little bit about how loneliness can play into faith, if that's possible?
Well, yeah, loneliness is...
Or just feelings in general?
Well, let's put it this way, feelings are feelings, okay? But actually, if that is something that you can take it or not, emotions usually are preceded by a thought. Any emotion usually is preceded by a thought. So if we are able to let our thoughts come from the inside, or not to give importance to thoughts, they create negative emotions. We have the ability to choose the emotion that we want. Loneliness. Loneliness is one of those aspects that we choose actually to feel like, because we forget that we are in contact with our higher power. And we buy into that because it's a kind of, it catch the sympathy of other people, or it gives us something to complain about. I'm so lonely. Oh, my life. Yeah, if only I could have a companion. If only I could have other friends. If only I could have a body to hug. If only could have a person, to call to go to the movie every day. We buy into this emotion because it's easy to be in that emotion, because something that we know is a familiar one. The most difficult part in recovery, I believe, is to learn how to actually enjoy life, to feel the ability to enjoy it without feeling guilty. Because that was my biggest problem. When I start to feel really happy, when I start to feel the joy of being alive, the joy of being clean, the joy of being honest, the joy of being around people, the joy of working with Sponsi, the joy of being with my sponsor, the joy of doing even nothing, I immediately was, because something is missing here. What is missing? Pain. Damn it. That's what is missing. Pain. I'm so used to pain. Where is my pain? I couldn't conceive my day without pain, without some worry, without some anxiety. Something is wrong here because nothing is wrong. There has to be something wrong in my life. So immediately I was buying, no, we have to fill the room. So even loneliness. At times we buy into loneliness because it's such a familiar thought. And there is something comforting in it. But emotions are emotion, and you can just look at them and not buy into them. I lost it.
Mm-hmm.
It's my 6 years. I treasure it. So, if you really go down and if you have this connection with your higher power, then there is no loneliness. You might be alone, is a fact. Then the interpretation that you give to the fact that you are alone is the ego interpretation. And you can just switch it into, wow, nice, Nobody's eating my cookies. Nobody's finishing the toilet paper without changing the roll, So there are so many aspects you can look at it, but immediately, no, I'm lonely. That's how we interpret the fact that it just has no meaning in itself, has no meaning.
Except for the ego, right?
Except for the ego. The ego is buying it. The ego tells you it's awful to be lonely. And then will attach other meaning. Because you cannot hug someone, because your friend thinks that you are a geek or a weirdo or something. A loser, So then you start to attach all the other meaning until you buy into this drama and become your story. Yes, I'm lonely because, and I actually am. I know what I don't want. And the guy was right. He looked at me, now I understand. That look was really of pity because blah, blah, blah. We start to buy into this drama. You stop 1 second. You just go inside yourself, connect with your higher power, and look just in a very simple way. You are just giving the meaning to all these things. And the way that you give a certain meaning, you can just say, you know what? I don't want drama tonight. So simple. I don't want drama tonight. I want to feel happy. Give the interpreter all the other events in a happy way, in a positive way. But again, we are going to miss, at least I miss a lot, the chaos in my life. I didn't know what to do with days that I felt wake up in the morning and look at, wow, what a gorgeous day. What am I going to do today? I have to work. Well, I will be miserable. No, I actually like what I'm doing. So where can I find some misery? Mm-hmm. I needed to find some misery around because that was the only comfortable space. I was afraid of joy. And then one day occurred to me, well, forget it. It's fine. And the more I am with in connection, the more I really get used, the more I live in that situation, the more I don't need just to go in the drama again. And I actually feel that at times, emotional, an old song from Italy the other day, suddenly brought memories, I was like, my kid, my things, I did that. I said, wait a minute, what do you want to do? Do you want to be sad tonight or you want to feel good? And at night I decided I want to feel good, and so I just switched. I said, forget it. Oh yeah, that is a song. Yeah, I remember I heard that in 1963, and she dropped me, okay. Period. I just did not attach any real meaning to that. There have been other times that actually say, what, tonight the sadness was coming in. I said, let me just play with this sadness. And I had the sadness come to me, feeling sad, being there, but I had the awareness I was about looking at me being sad with kindness in a very gentle way. And I let the sadness come, then go, and it was over. I was just witnessing myself, seeing myself being a certain way, and I could experience it, but without buying into all the trapping, all the other things, So I was just letting go of the drama. And I was just conscious that there was this higher power with me, and that's all I needed. That's all I need. That's where faith come into play. Shame and guilt are gone because I make my amends. And I came to probably to develop forgiveness that I learned to forgive other people, then I use it on myself. I forgive myself. There is nothing I can do to change the past. Nothing. So why dwell on it? I can just look at the past as a wonderful tool that has been given to me by God to be exactly where I am now. And now I'm exactly at the place I was supposed to be. I'm exactly at the perfect place. And I needed all the past just to be here. So I embrace my past. And I not feel pain any longer for what happened. There was a reason why that had to happen. And I have absolute faith in that. So in place of using the past to destroy myself now, I use the past as something that I've been blessed with. Like being an alcoholic, when people say I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic at the beginning, and they say, what this guy's grateful for? I mean, he's an alcoholic. My life has been destroyed by gambling, and I should be grateful for. Yeah. I'm happy that I don't drink and I don't gamble any longer. I don't use drugs any longer. But certainly, I could have had a better. But today I understand it. Actually, I could not be in this situation that I'm now if I didn't have the past that I had. So I'm very grateful that I am an alcoholic and grateful that I am a compulsive gambler in recovery. And if I can improve on my sense of gratitude, and my sense of joy can only improve. It's so simple. I think that's all the time we have. And any question or anything that you want to expand? No? Is it okay? So we will start again next week, and we will go actually on resentment. It'll be more in depth. And I will try. I will try to talk less and to go on some real example. So, somebody can come with the resentment, and we will try to dissect one and see.
I'll work on one.
Yeah, you come if you have a resentment. We will just say, please, okay, let's see what the resentment is. Okay, so one of you will volunteer with that, and we will then break it down and see how we work within ourselves, or how then, probably you would expect that your sponsor will work with you in the sense you start to analyze it and see, the character defect that we have. Is it okay?
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
So let's get those forms when we start next week with the.
Yeah, we will start with that, and we will start to take one. We will make one resentment, and we will go for that.
No, put your step down.
Oh.
Can't get away that easy, right?
I'm tired.